Excuse me, do you have a second to talk about our Lord and Savior fashion?
Hi everyone, my name is Aurora and welcome to this video. Today I want to talk about this channel, specifically about its name. Why is it called It's Just Fashion? What does that even mean? And is fashion really just something? Or does it actually impact our daily lives? Hit that like button, subscribe button and all that jazz to find out. Before we start though, I just want to mention this lovely little shirt I'm wearing. It's actually a jumper, but it's short-sleeved because, you know, when your neck is cold and your body is cold but your arms are just super hot. I got this lovely shirt at a vintage store that sells in bulk, so you don't buy an item per se, you take all of your items that you wanted to buy, put it on, you know, the scale, and then you pay in money what's equal in the weight. So this jumper was around $1.50, I think, because it is a bit heavier in comparison with other items that I bought that day in that store. This is a part of my homeware, but you know, it's Sunday and I couldn't be bothered to wear something you know, appropriate for the outside world, even though more people will actually see this video than the people that would meet me when I'm wearing this in real life. But you know, it's easier this way. Don't get me started. Anyway, it's just fashion. Is it really just fashion or is it something more? And why did I decide to name it that way? Well, let's start with some negatives. So when I was growing up, I was always overdressed, or at least I was trying to be, and I cared about fashion, but that didn't align well with my other, you know, affinities and my life goals and things like that. I was always, you know, striving for academia. I was looking forward to college when I was 11, and you know, fashion was just something that was pushed aside by, not just by myself, but by all of the other people around me, because it wasn't, you know, there was a discrepancy between Aurora, who talks about, you know, history and sociology and philosophy and things like that, and Aurora, who talks about shoes. People had problems with figuring out that those two aspects of me are still the same and equal. They are both part of me, but you know, kids are kids and kids are mean sometimes. So I was told that it's just fashion and I shouldn't care about it. Let me just focus on my academia. It's better that way. It doesn't suit me to talk about fashion. It's like looking at a chicken with breasts and things like that. That is a literal quote that I heard one time, that hearing me talk about fashion is like seeing a chicken with breasts, actual breasts, you know, and it just stuck with me. So I always still loved fashion, but I just loved it in private. It was my guilty pleasure, if you will. So that was one of the reasons why I named this channel It's Just Fashion, to, you know, give back to the haters, let them know that they didn't get me. I'm still here. I love talking about fashion. Not only that, but I found a way to mix my academic interests with my fashion interests and mix it both in something entirely new and different and something that fulfills me. So there is that. Then the second reason why it's called Just Fashion is because people have a misconception about fashion. They really think that fashion is just fashion. It's not something that matters. It's not something that impacts you on an everyday basis. It's just something that some, you know, people with half a brain talk about all day and obsess about it, and you just don't have, you know, the time, the energy and money to think about it, and it just fashion is not something that ever really strikes your mind. And I think that's wrong. I think that there is no such thing as just fashion, because fashion exists, it impacts our everyday life, it impacts you on a daily basis. You might not even think that it's so, but it is, not only when it comes to your relationship with other people, but also fashion shapes the way you think about yourself and the way you know, you care about yourself. So fashion isn't just fashion, it's actually something more, much more impactful and meaningful than people like to think so. The reason why people think that fashion is just fashion is probably because it's so everyday life. When something is daily and normal, you don't think of it as something special. It's just something that happens, that's there, that doesn't have any impact or value or anything else. But it's actually quite the opposite. When something is in your life every day, when you have to think about it every day, what are you going to wear to work? What are you going to wear to your kids, I don't know, recital? What are you going to wear to your friend's wedding? What are you going to wear to someone's funeral? What are you going to wear when you're doing a presentation at school or something like that? You think about those things, even though you might not, confess that to yourself or to others, but you think about it. Why? Because it actually matters. Why? Because we have an ability to, by dressing in a certain way, manipulate how we see ourselves and how others see ourselves. For example, if you're wearing something cozy like I'm wearing right now, if you're sitting on the floor like I'm sitting right now, you might feel a bit more relaxed. You might feel like you're not in front of the camera and talking to the potential, I don't know how many thousands of people, and something that's gonna stay on the internet forever and haunt me and all that jazz. I don't think about that. Why? Because I'm comfortable. And when people are sick or feeling down or something like that, they mostly opt for something more comfortable so that they can get more relaxed. And that's one way to use fashion. The second way to use fashion is go to the exact opposite. You get prepped up, you get dressed up, and you're feeling like you're on the top of the world. Nobody can bring you down. You are full of confidence, you're very stable on both of your feet, looking straight ahead, and you're fearless, you're the girl boss or whatever. It is a way to get yourself an instant boost of confidence. When you're having an important meeting or having a job interview or doing a presentation in school or something like that, and you don't want to feel super relaxed, you want to feel confident and look confident, you will opt for something that's like a suit or something structured or something in some serious colors and things like that, because you know that it is your Iron Man suit. You know that when you wear something like that, you will get that boost of confidence that you needed. You are confident by yourself, but having something that will boost that confidence is really a valuable thing to have. And you shouldn't just ignore it because it's just fashion and it won't have any impact on your life or anything like that. Try it and you will see that it actually works. It actually does what I'm telling you right now that it does. By dressing in a certain way, you allow yourself to feel a certain way. You push yourself over your boundaries, or you keep yourself safely tucked in, whatever it is that you need at that moment. Fashion can actually give it to you, but you just have to know what you want and how you can actually achieve it. And then in that same situation where you're dressing for yourself, you're actually dressing for others too, because it's not just fashion in anybody's mind. If you think that it's just fashion, next time you're walking down the street, please take a look on the people around you and play that game when you guess someone's life. What's their socioeconomic status? How old are they? How many children do they have? Do they still live with their parents? Do they have a college degree? Are they someone of importance or someone that's not important or anything like that? And you will see that you're biased. We are all biased. Why? Because we're conditioned to be so, because fashion is a key. Fashion is just a pathway that shows you, just as stereotypes work, that someone is something, that so that you can actually save time on trying to figure out something about those people. You just act on your pre-assumptions to assume something about someone new. If you're walking down the street and you see someone who's wearing some, baggy pants that have dirt on them, that are ripped, and they have, I don't know, something extra oversized on them, and it looks super old, and they have shoes that are broken down, and they're wearing a backpack that has just one handle or something like that. You might think that that person is not super wealthy. You might think that they don't care about their appearance, that they're probably, struggling in some way, or that maybe they're homeless or something like that. But on the other hand, when you're walking down the street and you see a man or a woman in a business suit wearing a handle bag that has some papers in them, and they're wearing shiny shoes, and they're wearing an expensive watch and things like that, you will automatically think that that person is of importance. You might be wrong, of course, because as we said earlier, you can manipulate how others see you by how you dress. So you might dress in certain ways so that people will perceive you in that way that you want to be perceived, which doesn't have to be the truth. That is one of the problems with fashion, actually. Nowadays, you know, back in the day, it was actually forbidden by law to impersonate people of other socioeconomic status. So there is that, but we'll get back to that. Anyway, so that person is wearing a suit and they're super important, and you're thinking just, oh, wow, that person, you know, wow. And then you might not think nothing of it. You met those people, they passed by you, you had a thought about them, and they just went along their ways, just like you. But then you find yourself in a social situation, something that demands an evaluation of the importance of all the people in there. So, for example, it's standing in the row for something, or it's waiting on some service, or it's you're all in trouble, but who is gonna get out of it first, or something like that. Doesn't matter really what kind of social situation it is. It just matters that there are people that look different in that situation, and that by that they will be treated differently. Is it okay or is it not? It isn't, but that's the way we are living in our society. It's the way that allows us to live in a society that is filled with so many information and so many categories and so many different lists of priorities and things like that. Sometimes you just have to take the easiest way out, even though it might be biased in a negative way towards someone, or in a positive way towards someone else who didn't actually deserve it. But it is what it is. For example, when we were at third year of college, we were talking in one of my sociological classes about fashion and about roles in society, about positions in society, and things like that. And the professor talked about his friend who wears a suit all the time. You know, he has to wear it to work, and after work, when he's coming home, he usually stops at the bakery to get the bread for the dinner for his family that day. And he did it for months and months and months. The bakers actually get to know him. They were on, friendly terms and things like that. But then one day he didn't go to work. He was at home. He was having a free day or something like that, and he wasn't in his suit, but he still went to the bakery, and the baker didn't recognize him. Why? Because, you know, hundreds of people go to that bakery, and he doesn't think about them as persons. He thinks about them as, you know, symbols of people who actually go there, and then by that he acts accordingly. So when he saw that man in jeans and a t-shirt, he didn't actually, you know, connect the dots that that same person is someone who is coming there every day for months in a suit, but he thought that it's someone else, and he actually treated him differently. He wasn't as friendly as he is usually, because he thought it was just a one-time thing. When people are in one-time situations, they actually tend to be a bit more rude than they are in situations when there is a possibility to, you know, have that same interaction the next day and the day before and the day after that. And not only that, but because we are biased, we might be more polite to people who are better dressed than to people who are not dressed as well. It is horrible. It is a form of discrimination, actually, because not everyone can afford to look a certain way, and that's why we actually use fashion as a reference, because we believe that not all of the people can afford it. Only people who are of such and such status, of such and such a position in society, of such and such socioeconomic status, are those who can afford it. Therefore, they are valued more than some people who might not be able to afford it, and they might be more rude to people who might look like they are not as privileged, as they don't have money to buy fashionable things or just looked polished enough, in contrast to the wealthy people. And I noticed this myself, not only in sociological theories or in movies or things like that, but in real life too. When I'm going somewhere, if I'm dressed casually in sweatpants and sneakers and my hair is super messy and things like that, people are rude. Maybe not super rude, but they are at least cold or neutral. They just don't seem friendly enough, they don't care enough about you to be more polite. But the moment you wear something that's polished, you get treated so much better. And I don't think that's okay that people are treated differently, but I think that in this situation that we're in, you can just use that if you can, I hope that you can, to make the situation do the best for you. So if you know that you're going somewhere that you need to be taken seriously, if you're going somewhere that you know you're going to be in an argument or have a problem of some kind or anything. So my phone decided to die out. I don't know what happened, but I lost literally 15 minutes of footage and now I have to start pretty much from the beginning, so bear with me. What did I say last before this whole thing happened? I was talking about how you can use fashion as a way to boost your confidence, a way to also make others see you in a different light than you already are. For example, you might trick people into thinking that you're more important than others, or that you're more, fun than others, that you're more unique than others, or whatever it is that you need for that specific social interaction. You might use fashion as a tool to actually enhance it all and make your life a bit easier. It is a lovely time that we're living right now, because back in the days it was literally illegal to do such things because of the difference in the treatment. It was literally forbidden by law, at least in my country. I don't know how other countries behaved around that, but for example in my country around 200 years ago or so, you couldn't wear specific colors if you weren't of specific status. If you weren't a lord or a lady or someone who is a governor or something like that, you weren't allowed to wear perhaps red or something like that. So if you were a peasant and you were buying the fabric for your own dresses, you weren't allowed to do so. It also extended to gun laws and things like that, but now we're focused on the fashion part, so you literally had some specific types of clothing that were forbidden for lower classes, while they were only reserved for the upper classes. And also ancient Greeks and Romans, they also had some ways of differentiating between different classes of people. They mostly all wore the same thing. They wore togas and tunics and things like that, but the way that they wrapped it around their body wasn't the same for every class. Some had to wear it on one shoulder, some wore it on two shoulders, and it was believed that the more pleated the fabric of your tunic is, the more wealthy you are, because obviously you have more fabric to dispose of, if that makes sense. So there is that. But then, since around French Revolution and Industrial Revolution and things like that, things began to change. When working people started earning more money and the materials became more affordable, they started imitating the upper class to seem more like them. And then you have those new aristocrats, the new wealth, and whatever the name it is, for those people who came in to that status. And then you also had a trend that is also popular right now, even hundreds of years later, of wealthy people dressing down in some clothing that is more suited for someone of lower class. So, for example, back in the 19th century and the beginning of 20th century in my country, the aristocrats began to wear some peasant clothing to show that they are one of the people, that they shouldn't be executed in the revolution or anything like that, that they are one of them. And even now, 100 years later, we are seeing the same thing. If you go on Instagram and you watch your favorite influencers, they might be wearing, you know, Prada and Gucci and Balenciaga and I don't know what else. But they're also wearing Zara, they're also wearing H&M, they're also wearing, I don't know, Fashion Nova or whatever it is. Why? Because they want to show you that they are one of you. They also want to make you buy those specific items because they are paid to wear those things, but also they just want to trick you into thinking that you're one of them and they're one of you, so that you can form more easily your parasocial relationships. And that's something that you should be aware of, that people have an ability to use fashion against you or for you or against them or for them, just like you can, and that is both the power and the trouble of the fashion. Also, some other examples of the same thing is, you know, Steve Jobs or Bezos or what's called the cucumber, Mark Zuckerberg. They're all wearing their uniform, that is the plain jeans and the plain shirt, because of course they don't want to spend their precious time and energy on deciding what to wear, but also to look like they don't care. It's just fashion for them. They're just wearing something so that they are not naked. And also they're one of you, they're IT guys, you know. We all know IT guys, they're all friendly, they're all cool, they're all wearing that same uniform of t-shirt and the jeans. They're really trustworthy, aren't they? You know, that's how it goes. The same thing is proven to work with white mantles. It is literally called the syndrome of white coat. So you have doctors, for example, you have lab technicians and other experts in such fields that wear white coats because they need them in the laboratory environment. But then you see those same white coats in commercials on TV when they are talking about hemorrhoid creams or I don't know, food supplements or something like that. Why? Because you are conditioned to believe that white coat. You know that that white coat symbolizes knowledge, the power, and the trust that the doctors have, that the specialists have. So they use an actor who is wearing a white coat to make you feel that you can trust them. And then when you trust them, you're more likely to actually buy the product. So there's that, and please keep that in mind because, as I said, fashion can be used both against you and for you. And now let's talk about the second aspect of it all, why it actually is just fashion. And there are two important things here, so bear with me. So first thing is, fashion industry is the second biggest industry in the world. It's the second biggest polluter in the world. It attributes so much to the global warming, to horrible working conditions, to breaking the animal rights, to everything horrible, really. And how can it be if it's just fashion? It obviously isn't just fashion. If it is, that industry wouldn't be so successful. So people actually think that fashion is important. They buy into it. They support the horrible practices. But when you ask them about it, they will say, no, it's just fashion. It isn't. And if we want to make it as just fashion, then we have to stop making it such a big deal as a factor of, you know, destruction in our society and in the time that we're living right now. When you look at it from, you know, the grand scheme of things, human race and everything that we did on this planet and things like that, it's just a snippet of time that the earth has existed, that the universe has existed, and that it will exist after us. And why are we giving then such an importance to fashion if it's not something that will have an impact on the grand scheme of things, of course, except for destroying the planet and all of the live beings on it? It makes no sense. And if you implement that mindset that it's just fashion and you won't bother with it, you won't buy into the trends, you won't go to the fast fashion stores, you won't buy for status or anything like that, then the fashion industry is losing its leverage, it's losing its profits, and it's actually breaking down and is being forced to change its ways. That's how you make a change. And I think that you should implement that mindset of it's just fashion. The other reason why it's just fashion and why your life will be so much easier and fulfilled and fun if you think about it as it's just fashion is how you will feel more free. You see, when I was growing up, I was wearing mostly hand-me-downs and I was wearing some fast fashion items, most of which I didn't actually choose. I mean, I did, but because we weren't super wealthy, I had, the budget, and it didn't seem right to buy a nice shirt for, I don't know, $20 if I could for that money buy 20 different shirts for that same money. And because of that, I wasn't always up to the trends. For example, I had Dr. Martens boots in the time where Dr. Martens were the huge thing. They literally had the comeback in that year, and I had Dr. Martens, but I had ones that were 10 years old, that were of different model than those that were popular at the time when I was in elementary school, because they were a hand-me-down from my cousin. And I got bullied for that a lot, because people said you're an imposter, you're not really wearing Dr. Martens shoes, you're just lying, your shoes are ugly, they're not as fancy as ours, and things like that. And I would cry on my way home because I thought that I wasn't worth enough because I wasn't wearing a right pair of Dr. Martens shoes. And there were so many similar situations during my childhood and teenage years that it really hurts sometimes to think about it. It really doesn't make sense. Why is someone else, impacted by what I'm wearing? Why is someone literally hurt by the things that I'm wearing so much that they have to hurt me back? That really happened a few times, that I was wearing something that I made myself and people told me to move from them, that they can't see me right now because their eyes hurt because I'm wearing something that's not trendy. And I would move actually, or I would cover myself or something like that, and it would hurt a lot. And it took me so much time, so much work on myself, on my self-worth, on my creativity, on my self-confidence, and I'm finally out of it. I think. I'm not so sure that I'm 100% out of it. I wasn't in a situation where someone was mocking my outfits in a long time, so I can't really say with confidence that I wouldn't care. But, globally, I'm in a much better place than I was, 5 or 6 years ago. I became more free when I moved to the new city to meet new people, because they didn't know me, and when they saw my style, they just thought, okay, that's her style, and they didn't think twice about it. And it was so great. It was such a relief to live that way, and I'm living that way right now. I don't care if I'm following trends, if I'm wearing something that was 2 seasons ago, if I'm wearing something that, with something else that shouldn't actually go together by the rules of fashion or something like that. It doesn't matter. It's just fashion. Just like I don't care what other people wear, just like I see them wearing something and think, good for them, they're having fun, they're feeling confident. The same things I say to myself. And I think that's the key. I use fashion as a tool to express my creativity, to give myself a boost of confidence, to have fun, but I'm not using it as a cheat code to make other people like me. Because when you use that as a criteria for other people to like you, you're always dependent on them and not yourself. You don't have your own style, you have their expectations, and it's super easy to just, fall out of it. For them to realize that they don't want to do anything with you, that you're just someone that can be easily replaced with anyone else who is the same way, but by thinking that it's just fashion and you have the right to do anything you want with it, you're giving yourself permission to be free, to be creative, to have fun. And I think that's super important. Especially now, in the times of the internet and globalization and things like that, you can be whatever you want to be, and you will find people just like you who are loving the same things that you can grow together with. And I think that's beautiful. I think that It's great that in the last 10-ish years we left the assumption of having the decade themes. When you're gonna look back into 2020s, you won't see one specific trend that's all over the place. You will see different strains of trends that are pulling all in the different direction, and that's diversity, and that's inclusiveness, and that's beautiful. I think that's the key of living, a fulfilled life, at least when it comes to fashion. So please think of fashion as something that is just fashion, but that also has some aspects of it that can make your life a bit easier, more fun, and more creative. So please let me know in the comments down below which of these perspectives or explanations of why fashion is just fashion you agree the most with, and why. I would love to know, because as always I'm creating these videos to start a discourse with you guys, to learn something new myself and to teach something you guys, so it would mean a lot to talk to you about this. And also I just want to quickly say thank you so much for watching, for liking this video, for subscribing to the channel, for commenting under every video and things like that. I love interacting with you guys. I love that we are creating something new here, and I just can't wait to see where it will take us in the future. So yeah, if you're subscribed, I will see you some other time. Bye!